So as you can see, we're moving along now with the character, and the only real last area that we can look at is going to be her hair. That's the only section that really looks quite flat and boring and low detail now compared to her clothing and her body. Her hands, I'm going to leave those as they are because they had enough detail in previously, and they're quite small anyway. Obviously, if this is going to be quite a big render or something like that, then you may want to add more detail into those areas. But I think for this course, I'm going to leave the arms and the hands for now. Like I keep saying, we may come back at a later date, and well, you could always come back at a later date and add more detail into the sculpt. I certainly plan to work a bit more on her after I finish these videos, and I may add in a few more details just to make the scene a bit more interesting, and obviously the hula hoops which she's swinging around. But for now, let's move on and start working on her hair. And you may find at this stage that Silo, zoom out a bit, may be running a bit slow. Ignore that with the hair there, that's just a display thing when you've got quite high dense meshes running alongside low density ones. So if things are starting to run a little bit slow, just feel free to go in and delete some of the objects, just leaving in the scene the ones that you want to focus on. Obviously, don't delete them and then save over this file so you've lost your work. Delete them, save out the file, calling it something like hair, and then you can just focus on the hair and then import them all back together later on. So yeah, let's just do pretty much what we were doing before. We're just going to sculpt some more detail into the hair. We'll add another subdivision. We just want to add in a few more strands, making it look a lot more like hair, or sort of a stylized hairstyle. At the moment, it's looking a bit like some sort of dead octopus sitting on a head. So we just need to step aside from that and just spend a bit of time just working in some details. So just like we did before, we're just going to with broad strokes just block in those large details, carve in some of the recesses, and then we'll soften those and just repeat until we get the sort of look and feel that we want. So let's start with a smooth brush. Reduce that. Let's just increase the strength. So let's just test that and just see if it's showing up. No, so let's add another subdivision. Let's just give that a try. Maybe add another subdivision. See, when you're working with quite low polygon geometry, it may take a few subdivisions before the strokes start to show up. There we go. It's just because there's not enough vertices in there for it to actually do much. Or it will be editing the mesh, you just won't be able to see it. So let's just start with that and just start building up these strokes, just following the flow of the hair. And I'm already starting to look at this and think, well, we will probably need another subdivision on top of this, but for now it's best to work on the lower subdivisions and then gradually work your way up, build in the bigger details on the lower subdivisions, and then the smaller details come later. But for now we're just using these strokes like so, just following the flow of the hair. Also remember to vary your brush size so each stroke isn't exactly the same. So we might use the sharp brush, just see if we can make these a little bit higher and also a little bit sharper. Like I say, it's not showing up much around here because the mesh isn't that high enough resolution, but we'll see how things go, and we may add another subdivision shortly. So we've got our peaks, so now we need to, holding down Control, just add a bit more definition to the recessed areas. Like so. And already you can start to see where we're going with the hair, just adding in that little bit more detail, just to make it look more like hair really. So then we, just like we did before, we'll just go in with a smooth brush, just gently soften some of these edges. And we can tell that around here the geometry isn't dense enough because as we're softening, we're sort of losing that definition. So we may need another subdivision. But obviously you do this here on the rest of the hair, get it to a certain stage, and then you'd go in, add another subdivision like so. And that will allow us to then go in and just add a bit more definition. So we'll get our sharp brush. As you can see here, now we've added that other subdivision. We can just get that extra bit of detail around there like that. Sort of like so, and then let's just add a bit to the front here. Obviously, if you want more strands, then you could go in and just add more in. At this sort of division level, you can then go in and add more. But I'm just going to want the hair to be quite stylized, so I'm just going to stick to large, long strands. They also read a lot better on the model and make it feel more like it's been sculpted rather than well, yeah, sculpted rather than just scratched away. So then a smooth brush, again, just soften those. What's nice is we've got this definition into the hair here, and it just comes to it just sort of fades away at the end. Exactly what we needed, just to give us a look, that sort of stylized look that we're after. And then what we could also do is use a pinch brush. Come in like so. Maybe sharpen some of these areas, some of these strands, like that, just giving them even more definition. Almost like the hair's been carved. Sort of like that. Remember to adjust your brush size so that you're not pulling in other areas. You just want to affect the peaks. So something like that. It almost looks like ice cream. But this is the fun part. You can just experiment with that. If you don't like these, sort of raised peaks, you can just go in and use a smooth brush just to soften them back down again. If you want a bit more definition, use your sharp brush. Go in like so, and just carve in some more detail in there. Increase your strength. Make those a lot more defined. Just like that. It just comes down to the particular style you're after, the look you're after. But what we've done there, you can now repeat that on all the other strands. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pause the video and then I'll do that. I will just continue working on the hair and we'll pick up in a second. So here we are back again. Done a lot more work on the hair. As you can see, I've opted to go for finer strands than we previously used. But if we rotate around, the hair just looks a lot more interesting than it previously did. And it didn't take that long to do, and it was certainly a lot easier than trying to build these waves into the actual geometry using subdivision surfaces. Just sculpting it in was a lot easier and quicker to do. And now we've ended up with quite a nice hair model. So I think we're pretty much at the end of this course. What I'm going to do is leave you now to continue working on the hair, and what we'll do in the next video is just do a final wrap up, look at the model as a whole, and just discuss where you could take it further.